The Vorlath were feared across the stars. No species had ever survived their invasion. They arrived like a storm, crushing entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind but ashes. Their fleet was massive, their technology unmatched, and their brutality absolute. Tonight, their ships surrounded Earth. Inside the Vorlath command ship, Supreme Commander Xalzor watched the blue planet with amusement. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but this one was special. Humans, a species the galactic community had ignored, had caught the Vorlath's attention. Their scientists studied human history, their wars, their weapons. Humans fought each other for centuries, developing strategies unlike anything seen in the galaxy. But Xalzor was not impressed. Primitive, weak, unworthy. He turned to his second-in-command, General Vraxton. "Begin the attack," Xalzor ordered. Vraxton grinned, his sharp teeth glinting under the dim red lights of the control room. "They won't last an hour." The Vorlath fleet moved into position. Their planetary bombardment cannons charged up, ready to wipe human cities off the map. The first attack would turn New York, Tokyo, and Moscow into burning craters. The Vorlath had done this countless times before. This was just another conquest. But then, something unexpected happened. The first mistake. Before the Vorlath could fire, a human fleet appeared. Hundreds of small gray ships emerged from behind the moon. They were nowhere near the size of Vorlath warships. Their weapons looked outdated, their shields laughably weak. The Vorlath fleet outnumbered them 5-1. Vraxton laughed. "They actually think they can stop us." Xalzor smirked. "Destroy them." The Vorlath ships opened fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes raced toward the human fleet. But instead of being destroyed, the human ships disappeared. "What?" Vraxton growled, his claws gripping the control panel. The human ships reappeared behind the Vorlath fleet. They had just dodged an entire barrage of attacks. That wasn't possible. The human counterattack. Then, the humans fired back. Their weapons weren't as powerful as Vorlath cannons, but they hit the right targets. Instead of aiming for the hull, they targeted engines, communication systems, and shield generators. One Vorlath ship lost power completely. Another spun out of control. Xalzor's confidence faded. How did they do that? Humans were not supposed to fight like this. Other species fought like the Vorlath, strength against strength. But humans, they used speed, precision, and deception. They didn't just fight, they hunted. The battle raged on, and for the first time in Vorlath history, they were not winning. Fear in the Predator's eyes. Inside one of the human ships, Captain Daniel Reese watched the chaos unfold. His crew moved quickly, firing missiles and directing the fleet's movements. The plan was working. "They're too slow," Reese said. "Keep hitting their weak spots." A young officer hesitated. "Sir, we're still outnumbered." Reese smiled. "Not for long." Just then, Earth's defense satellites activated. Hidden weapons launched hypersonic railgun rounds straight into the Vorlath fleet. 5 warships exploded instantly. In the Vorlath command ship, Xalzor felt something he had never felt before. Fear. This was supposed to be an easy victory. Instead, they were losing ships. "They're fighting like us," Vraxton whispered. "No, worse. They were fighting smarter." A message from humanity. Then, a signal cut through the battle. A human transmission appeared on every Vorlath screen. A human officer stared back at them, his eyes cold and fearless. His voice was calm, too calm. "You shouldn't have come here." Then the signal cut off. Xalzor clenched his fists. This was not how it was supposed to go. The Vorlath had conquered countless worlds without resistance, but this time was different. This time, they had made a mistake. They had underestimated humans. The aftermath of the first strike. The Vorlath fleet was in chaos. Their communication channels were filled with distress signals. The mighty warships, which had once conquered entire planets without resistance, were now falling apart. On the Vorlath command ship, Supreme Commander Xalzor slammed his fist onto the console. How are these primitives doing this? General Vraxtun's mandibles twitched in frustration. They shouldn't be able to fight like this. They have outdated technology. We have crushed civilizations with far superior fleets. But Fax didn't care about their expectations. Human warships, smaller and supposedly weaker, had dismantled parts of the Vorlath fleet in minutes. Their attack patterns were erratic, unpredictable, and devastating. And they weren't retreating. They were hunting. Earth's secret weapon. Inside the human flagship, Captain Daniel Reese analyzed the battlefield. His crew was laser-focused, reacting to enemy movements with split-second precision. "They still don't get it," Reese muttered. The Vorlath were strong but slow. They relied on brute force, expecting their overwhelming firepower to win every battle. Humans, they played dirty. A technician turned to Reese. "Sir, the javelin maneuver is ready." Reese grinned. "Let's give them a taste." From behind Earth's defense grid, a new formation of human ships emerged. These weren't just fighters. These were stealth-class warships, invisible to most scanners. They moved in dead silence, slipping between the Vorlath's lines like ghosts. The first strike was brutal. A human warship emerged inside the Vorlath formation, fired its payload of high-explosive missiles, and disappeared before the enemy could react. 3 Vorlath ships detonated in a chain reaction. The unthinkable happens. Xalzor stared in disbelief as another 3 ships exploded. This wasn't supposed to happen. "Sir," one of the Vorlath officers stammered, "our fleets are scattering. We're losing control of the battle." Vraxton's claws dug into the metal railing. "This is impossible. They should be running from us, not hunting us down." But the humans weren't running. They were closing in. Xalzor finally saw it. Humans didn't fight wars like the Vorlath. They didn't just charge in and hope for brute force to win. They adapted. They studied their enemies, found their weaknesses, and then struck like a dagger to the throat. And now, the Vorlath were the prey. A desperate plan. Xalzor's mind raced. The Vorlath had always been the hunters. They never retreated. They never surrendered. But they had never faced humans before. "Order all ships to fall back," he growled. Vraxton's eyes widened. "Retreat. But we need to regroup," Xalzor snapped. "We underestimated these creatures. That was a mistake. We won't make another." The remaining Vorlath ships broke formation and began pulling away from Earth. Their once unstoppable invasion had turned into a humiliating defeat. But even as they fled, Xalzor felt a dark certainty creeping into his mind. Humans weren't just a strong enemy. They were something far worse. They were a nightmare waiting to be unleashed. A war unlike any other. Deep in space, the Vorlath fleet limped away from Earth's orbit. The battle had left scars, both on their ships and their pride. Inside the command ship, Supreme Commander Xalzor paced. His claws tapped against the cold metal floor. Never before had the Vorlath retreated from a battlefield. Yet here they were, running. General Vraxton spoke carefully. "Commander, the humans, they fight differently." Xalzor turned, his mandibles twitching. "They fight like monsters," he hissed. "They do not fight for honor, for conquest. They fight like their lives depend on it." Vraxton hesitated. And worse, they're learning. That was the terrifying part. Other species fell predictably. The Vorlath would crush their fleets, burn their cities, and enslave their people. Every species broke eventually. Humans. Humans fought back, and they were getting better at it. Earth's message to the galaxy. While the Vorlath struggled to understand what had happened, the humans were already preparing for the next phase. Inside a high-tech war room on Earth, Captain Daniel Reese stood before a screen. The faces of Earth's military leaders stared back at him. A general leaned forward. "Captain, the Vorlath won't accept this defeat. They'll return." Reese nodded. Then we'll be ready. The general smirked. Good, because this time, we won't just defend Earth. Reese's eyes narrowed. You're saying, we take the fight to them. A moment of silence. Then the general said the words that changed everything. It's time the galaxy knew what it's like to fear us. The infiltration plan. The humans didn't have the same raw power as the Vorlath, but they had something far more dangerous: strategy, deception, and precision. Instead of sending a massive fleet to battle, they devised a new plan. Small, elite strike teams would infiltrate Vorlath-controlled systems. They would hack, sabotage, and turn the Vorlath's own technology against them. They wouldn't just fight the Vorlath. They would tear them apart from the inside. Reese clenched his fists. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about revenge. The first strike. On the Vorlath homeworld, alarms blared. A massive explosion rocked one of their military outposts. Then another. Then another. Within hours, entire shipyards were in flames. Weapons malfunctioned, warships self-destructed, and communication channels were hijacked. A single, terrifying message was broadcast across every Vorlath screen. You now, what at means to FER. The Vorlath had always seen themselves as the hunters. But now, for the first time in their existence, they were the prey. Panic in the Vorlath Empire. The Vorlath homeworld was in chaos. Fires raged in their military sectors. Explosions tore through key installations. Entire supply chains collapsed overnight. Something impossible had happened. The humans, those primitive creatures the Vorlath had expected to crush easily, had infiltrated their empire. And they were winning without even sending an army. Supreme Commander Xalzor stood in the middle of a war room, his claws twitching. Every screen around him displayed disasters: sabotaged shipyards, malfunctioning defense systems, stolen intelligence. General Vraxton approached him cautiously. Sir, our enemies have learned our weaknesses. Xalzor's mandibles clicked in frustration. No, they have exploited them. The Vorlath had always been the dominant force in the galaxy. They had never needed to worry about defending themselves. Now, for the first time in their history, they were under attack. And worse, they didn't even know where the enemy was. The human shadow war. Unlike the Vorlath, humans didn't rely on brute force alone. They studied their enemies, adapted, and struck where it hurt most. Instead of launching a massive invasion, Earth had sent its best operatives to dismantle the Vorlath war machine from the inside. Sabotage teams disabled critical starship engines before they could launch. Cyber warfare units hacked into Vorlath systems, feeding them false information. Human spies infiltrated Vorlath command centers, planting doubt and paranoia. The Vorlath lived for war. But this wasn't war. This was something worse. A whisper in the dark. An enemy they couldn't see. A force that turned their own empire against them. A desperate counterattack. Xalzor slammed a fist into the war table. Enough of this cowardice. If the humans hide in the shadows, then we will burn the shadows away. He ordered the largest fleet the Vorlath had ever assembled, not just to attack Earth, but to annihilate it completely. This was no longer about conquest. It was about erasing the human threat before it was too late. Thousands of warships roared to life, setting a course for Earth. Earth's bold move. But humans had expected this. Inside Earth's military command, Captain Daniel Reese watched the incoming fleet on the holoscreen. They're coming, one officer muttered. Reese smirked. Good. That's exactly what we wanted. The Vorlath thought they were hunting down their enemy. They had no idea. They were walking into a trap. The Vorlath fleet approaches Earth. The Vorlath Armada moved through space like a storm of death. Thousands of warships, each armed with devastating weapons, tore through the void, heading straight for Earth. Admiral Xalzor stood at the bridge of his command dreadnought, his eyes locked on the glowing blue planet in the distance. "This ends now," he growled. The Vorlath had crushed countless species. They had never lost a war. And today would be no different. Or so they thought. Earth's silence. Something felt off. As the Vorlath fleet approached, there was no resistance. No human ships rose to meet them. No planetary defenses activated. It was as if Earth had already surrendered. General Vraxton narrowed his eyes. Why are they not fighting back? Zalzur smirked. Because they know it is over. Their species is finished. But then, the trap was sprung. Earth's hidden weapon. Before the Vorlath could fire a single shot, the entire fleet's systems went dark. Alarms blared. Engines failed. Weapons shut down. Shields flickered and died. What is happening? Zalzur roared. A human signal had infiltrated their fleet's network. A cyber attack so advanced that even the Vorlath's strongest firewalls crumbled in seconds. Earth had used their own technology against them. Hundreds of Vorlath ships lost control, crashing into one another. Battleships spun wildly, unable to fire. And then, the human fleet appeared. The counterattack begins. From the dark side of Earth's moon, massive warships emerge. Sleek, fast, and carrying weapons the Vorlath had never seen before. They had been hiding, waiting for this moment. The Vorlath were defenseless. Human railguns ripped through their warships. Missile swarms obliterated their dreadnoughts. Earth hadn't been helpless. They had been setting a trap. And now, the hunters had become the hunted. The Vorlath's nightmare begins. Admiral Zalzur watched in horror as his mighty fleet crumbled before his eyes. The humans had outplayed them. Their weapons didn't just disable Vorlath ships. They destroyed them. A single human railgun round punched through 3 battleships in a row, leaving behind nothing but floating wreckage. Missiles tracked fleeing warships, detonating inside their engine cores and turning them into fireballs. For the first time in their history, the Vorlath were outmatched. Desperate orders. Zalzur slammed his fist against the control panel. Regain control of the fleet. Fire everything we have. But the weapons didn't respond. The cyber attack had shut them down completely. Panic spread through the Vorlath ranks. Ships turned, trying to escape. But human warships moved faster. They cut off retreat paths, forcing the Vorlath into a killing zone. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a massacre. Human soldiers land on Vorlath ships. While the space battle raged, human dropships launched. The late soldiers in advanced exosuits landed on Vorlath capital ships. They tore through the corridors like unstoppable ghosts, their weapons silent but deadly. Vorlath warriors tried to fight back, but they weren't used to losing. They made mistakes, and humans took advantage of every single one. Zalzur's last stand. On the bridge of his dreadnought, Zalzur grabbed his personal rifle. He refused to be taken alive. The doors exploded open. Human soldiers stormed in. Their leader, a scared veteran with cold, calculating eyes, stepped forward. Zalzur raised his weapon, but he was too slow. A single shot ended the Vorlath admiral's reign. His body hit the floor, and for the first time in history, the Vorlath Empire was leaderless, and humanity had only just begun their revenge. A galaxy-wide shock. The news spread like wildfire. The Vorlath, the most feared species in the universe, had fallen to a species they once considered weak. Entire planets went silent. Allied races who had once feared the Vorlath rejoiced. Enemies who had once dared not challenge them now saw an opportunity. The age of Vorlath dominance was over, and humanity had made sure of it. The final blow. Deep inside the Vorlath home system, the last remnants of their once mighty fleet gathered for a final stand. But there was no hope left. Human warships cut through their lines like hunters tearing apart prey. Every desperate counterattack failed. Every last-ditch maneuver collapsed. Finally, the last Vorlath battleship, the Bloodfang, was surrounded. A message was broadcast across every frequency. Surrender, or be destroyed. The Vorlath commander hesitated. Then, in a final act of defiance, the Bloodfang charged forward, only for a human dreadnought to fire a single railgun shot through its core. The Bloodfang erupted in flames, and with it, the Vorlath fleet ceased to exist. A message to the galaxy. The leader of the human forces, Admiral Graves, addressed the entire galaxy. His face was calm, but his voice carried a warning. Humanity does not seek war, but if war is forced upon us, we will finish it. The message was clear. The galaxy had changed forever. The most dangerous species had been humbled, and the new apex predators, humans,